I am honored to now introduce our keynote speaker. This is her third time. She's so good, we keep inviting her back. Throughout her career, from organized labor to staff director at House Transportation and Infrastructure, now to the NTSB, protecting people through safety has been a clear core value. She has served as the 15th chair of the NTSB since 2021. In May of 2024, the U.S. Senate unanimously confirmed the president's renomination to continue serving as chair until August of 2027 and as a board member through 2029. So we're lucky to have her for a good amount of time longer. So please join me in welcoming NTSB Chair Jennifer Homendy.
Good morning. So I promise I actually didn't coordinate what I was going to talk about today with Bill or Bruce, but I think it will resonate. If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his own language, that goes to his heart. It's a quote that has been attributed to Nelson Mandela. Now, I've done research on this quote because I love the quote. There are some that say it was altered over time, maybe, but it's a great message. So I'm going to believe it's true that he said it. If you talk to a man in a language he understands, that goes to his head. If you talk to him in his own language, that goes to his heart. In 2017, I traveled with a U.S. congressional delegation to Europe and the Middle East. When we landed in Jordan, we drove about 90 miles to Za'atari refugee camp near Jordan's border with Syria. It was about 6 years into the still ongoing Syrian civil war. Za'atari is the world's largest camp for Syrian refugees. It's home to about 80,000 people, down from about 120,000 people in 2013. We were there to meet with the United Nations Refugee Agency, whose mission is focused on protecting people, the rights and well-being of refugees, providing them with life-saving assistance like food, water, shelter, and medical care, and building a better future for every person forced to flee. While there, we were given a choice. We could go on a bus and go through the camp. It was very large. Or we could meet with two people who fled Syria. I chose, I wasn't going to go on a bus. This wasn't a tour. We were there to meet with people, so I chose to stay and meet with the two who fled Syria. Two people who unknowingly have had a tremendous impact on my life. The first was a woman who was teaching other women in the camp how to make and sell soaps and perfume. She was helping other women support themselves and survive. The other person I met with was an 18-year-old young man who was attending engineering school in Amman. For some time, we sat across the table and tried to talk through UN translators who lived at the camp. It was difficult. It was a difficult conversation. So one of the young women from the State Department who was with us leaned over to me and said, "Would you mind if I practiced my Arabic?" And I said, "Sure." And she started speaking. I can't really describe accurately what it was like. It was like talking in darkness, and then a light just went off. I mean, lights across faces, they were smiling, their eyes widened. All of a sudden, it was laughing and conversation. It really did change everything, because whatever barriers existed was all of a sudden gone. It is something that I think about often, because then, and only then, were we able to learn what life was like in the camp, about how tough it was to live there, how people were caring for children that weren't their own, about the loved ones they left behind in Syria, and about the loved ones they lost on their way. Recall we had translators with us. Our failure to connect at the outset wasn't necessarily a language barrier problem. The Syrian woman and the young man understood us through a translator, but we were strangers from a Western country sitting across a divide, a table, and we were asking deeply personal questions, questions with painful answers through a third party. Something was lost, something intangible. We had failed to communicate effectively. Most importantly, we had failed to connect as people, human beings. Why am I starting with a story that seemingly has nothing to do with pipeline safety? Because it does, and I'll get back to that in a minute. As we just saw, this past June marked 25 years since the Olympic pipeline rupture in Bellingham. It's hard to believe that it's been 25 years. 25 years since the world lost Liam, Wade, and Stephen. Unfortunately, Bellingham is just one of many pipeline investigations the NTSB has investigated since 1967, and I'm going to go through a few of them. May 29, 1968, Hapeville, Georgia, a bulldozer working in front of a daycare tears into a gas line. The bulldozer operator can't find the buried shutoff valve. Within minutes, an explosion occurs, and the ensuing fire engulfs the entire building. 9 people, including 7 children, die. 3 other children are seriously injured. That explosion and 9 others prompted the NTSB to issue a special study on December 30th of 1970 on the effects of delay in shutting down failed pipeline systems, in which we called on the Office of Pipeline Safety to develop standards for the rapid shutdown of failed natural gas pipelines. Sound familiar? 1970, 2024. May 11th, 1979, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, natural gas pipeline ruptures. There's an explosion. The subsequent fire kills 7 and injures 19. October 1st, 1982, Pine Bluff, Arkansas, a natural gas flash fire severely burns 7 workers. July 8th, 1986, this is one I remember, not because I was part of this, but because I worked for Congressman Obistar, and this was one that was near and dear to him. July 8th, 1986, Mounds View, Minnesota. A pipeline transporting unleaded gasoline ruptures. A mom and her young daughter are returning home. The vapor ignites from the vehicle that entered the neighborhood, and a fire engulfs the entire neighborhood. Flames soar 30 feet high. 2 people are severely burned and later died, one being the mom. 1 person suffers serious burns covering 99% of her body, and that was the young daughter. November 21st, 1996, San Bruno, Puerto Rico, a mixed-use commercial building explodes from a propane gas leak. 33 people are killed, 69 are injured. December 11th, 1998, St. Cloud, Minnesota, utility workers strike a high-pressure plastic gas service line, which explodes and kills 4 people and injures 11 others. July 7th, 1998, Masood knows this one well, South Riding, Virginia. A natural gas explosion and fire destroys a home. The first night the family is staying in it, the wife is killed, the husband is severely injured, and 2 children suffer minor injuries. August 19th, 2000, Carlsbad, New Mexico, a 30-inch natural gas pipeline ruptures, killing 12 people who were camping under a bridge. October 27th, 2004, Kingman, Kansas, an anhydrous ammonia pipeline ruptures. Nobody was killed or injured, but the anhydrous ammonia leaked into a creek, causing serious environmental damage and killing more than 25,000 fish, including endangered species. November 1st, 2007, Carmichael, Mississippi, a pipeline transporting liquid propane ruptures. The resulting gas cloud expands over nearby homes and ignites, creating a large fireball that is heard and seen from miles away. 2 people are killed, 7 are injured. September 9th, 2010, San Bruno. I remember I was in my house office, the TV was on. Everybody at first thought it was a plane crash. The rupture produced a crater about 72 feet long by 26 feet wide, and the section of pipe that did rupture was about 28 feet long and weighed about 3,000 pounds and was launched 100 feet south of the crater. 8 people are killed, many injured, and many more evacuated. A total of 38 homes destroyed, 70 more damaged. July 25th, 2010, Marshall, Michigan. August 10th, 2016, Silver Spring, Maryland. April 17th, 2017, Firestone, Colorado. August 2nd, 2017, Minneapolis, Minnesota. February 23rd, 2018, Dallas, Texas. September 13th, 2018, Merrimack Valley, Massachusetts, my first launch at the NTSB. August 1st, 2019, Danville, Kentucky. August 15th, 2021, Coolidge, Arizona. January 24th, 2024, Jackson, Mississippi. There are so many more. These are just some. My point is, Bellingham is one among many accidents we've investigated since we were created in 1967. But there is only one, Pipeline Safety Trust, fighting to make sure all of these tragedies, deaths, and injuries mean something. Carl Weimer wrote an article on the 5th anniversary called Bellingham's Pipeline Safety Legacy. I'd like to read a few lines. Fortunately for this country, some Bellingham residents, including parents, who lost their children in this terrible tragedy, had the foresight to plan for the future. They made their #1 priority starting an independent, well-funded organization that would keep pressing for safer pipelines even after many in this community have forgotten what happened here. Their success in obtaining $4 million as an endowment for a pipeline safety trust will ensure that Bellingham's legacy of pipeline safety advocacy lives on. What came from Bellingham and what has come from the hard work of Pipeline Safety Trust has been nothing short of extraordinary. From tragedy, we draw knowledge for the safety of all. That is something that was etched on a plaque outside of the NTSB training center that was closed a few years ago. From tragedy, we draw knowledge for the safety of all. Since Bellingham, we've done that together. Just a few things. 811, the National Pipeline Mapping System, operator qualification, hazardous liquid integrity management, gas transmission integrity management, gas distribution integrity management, excess flow valves, automatic and remote controlled shutoff valves, and new pipelines, control room management, integrity verification, gas gathering lines, hydrogen pipelines, methane leak detection, and creation of the Pipeline and Hazardous Materials Safety Administration, which is mandated to ensure safety is its highest priority. I have to say that NTSB is my favorite, but my second favorite does happen to be PHMSA, and I do want to ask, if you worked at PHMSA, if you still are at PHMSA, if you want to work, no, you can't. NTSB is hiring. Please stand up. I do think you need a round of applause. That's right. Quite a lot was accomplished. And I do have to also say that I'm honored that Rob Hall, who was Director of Rail Pipelines and Hazmat for the NTSB, is here today, and now he's with the Trust. We have our current director, Pat Warren, and then also Sarah Lyons, our acting deputy director. And then I see we have Max. I didn't even know you were going to be here, Max Green, who is with our family assistance team. We call the office Transportation Disaster Assistance Team. They work with families after significant tragedies. So as a result of the hard work of everyone in this room, countless lives have been saved and will be saved. And we can and should celebrate our successes, our progress, if, and only if, we remember these lives should have never been lost in the first place. And there is so much work that's left to be done. We have so much more that we have to do to improve safety. Which brings me back to my opening story. We have a reauthorization bill coming up, and we are at a transition point across the government. With that brings new vision, it brings new opportunities, and yes, it does bring challenges. It does, no matter who wins, no matter what the change is. But there are opportunities. It's our duty as safety leaders to keep talking with one another, regardless of what is going on, but more importantly, to connect as people and to listen as we face these opportunities and challenges. If you talk to a man in a language that he understands, that goes to his head. But if you talk to him in his own language, that goes to his heart. I'll wrap up with a different story. In 2019, I went to my home state of Connecticut to testify on motorcycle safety. The state of Connecticut was moving a bill to require helmets for operators and for passengers, and it is something that the NTSB has a recommendation on. It was, the legislation was very much opposed by the Connecticut Motorcycle Riders Association. Now, I am from Connecticut, and if you all know, I'm sure you all have, like the crazy uncle in the family. I have one, or maybe a few. But I did not tell him that I was coming to Connecticut to testify because I'm pretty sure as a member of the Connecticut Motorcycle Riders Association that he would have been protesting my testimony. So I didn't tell him I was going to be there. But I did show up, and I was going to testify on helmets, and here we were waiting to testify for quite a long time, and it was me, and it was the governor's office, and the Department of Transportation for Connecticut, a group representing surgeons on traumatic brain injuries, and then AAA and a host of others. We were on one side of the lobby, and then the members of the Connecticut Motorcycle Riders Association was on the other side. And they had, as somebody who comes from the labor movement, I gotta respect a protest sign. I love it, right? So they had signs, and they were not happy. And here we, throughout several, 10, 20 minutes goes by, and I'm thinking, why are we over here and they're over there, right? So I walked over. And I'm pretty sure the look on the attorney's face was, why is she coming over? But I walked over, and I introduced myself and started talking to them, and just listening. Why are you here? What are your concerns? Why is this important to you? And I just listened the entire time. And then we were called inside, and I testified. They were not happy with the testimony, and that's okay. They didn't support it. Afterwards, though, I said, hey, we're going to stay because I'm hangry, actually, by that point. And I needed to go to so I went to the cafeteria. Well, they did too. And so they came over, and they sat down, and they said, hey, we want to ask you about some of the data that you had in your testimony about neck injuries and head injuries. Why did you say that? Where does that come from? This is what we learned. And we had a great conversation. Did I change their minds? Probably not. But that's okay. The whole reason we were there was largely to disagree, to testify why the other side was wrong and we were right. The truth, though, is not a single one of us wanted anyone to die. We just came at it differently. And so I would say every single person, nobody in this room wants anyone to die. So when we're talking with each other over the next couple of days, months, years on pipeline safety, a place to start may not be where you disagree, but where is the place you can agree? No one wants anyone to die. Start there, that place of agreement. I will tell you, for me, I decided I wanted to, I didn't change a mind, but I decided I wanted to learn what they learned. And so I went and took a motorcycle safety course. And I tell you, there's nothing worse than when you text your staff around Christmas and say, great news, I'm going to take a motorcycle safety class. I also started a Twitter account. They are not, what? Panic ensues. No, I did. I took a motorcycle safety class. I can tell you, I totally get it. I can tell you I should never operate a motorcycle again in my life. I got my license. It's on my license. I should never be on one. It is just not, I mean, I know there's a lot of young people in here, so you may not remember Zumba, but there's a reason why I run and don't do Zumba. I have literally no coordination at all. So here I am on my motorcycle, I mean, not mine, but theirs. And I thought I was doing great for a couple of days. And then the test came, and the written test was fine. But the instructor looked at me and you know, all the other people in the class, they had all been riders before. But he looks at me and says, okay, everybody's going to go to lunch except for Jennifer. And I looked at him and he said, in order to pass this class, you have to go 25 miles an hour. And I looked at him and I said, I am. He's like, maybe 12. It's like, it feels so fast. So what was great about it is so the entire lunch, he's pushing me to go faster and faster and go through this in this massive parking lot. It was terrible. But everybody in the class, they brought their lunch outside. They're like, go, you can do it. It was so funny. But listen, and I have to tell you, I actually made friends in the class. Every once in a while, they'll text me, I saw you on the news. But listen, you know, these conversations are possible. It's possible to have these conversations even at a place of disagreement. We can't lose sight of the fact that we are on the same side. We just might see things differently. I'm not saying we have to agree, we're always going to agree, we're certainly not, we as a collective, but we have to start from a place that has some commonality. That's the only way we're going to get to zero tragedies, 0 lives lost, and we have to do it, not just for the safety of others, but for Liam, for Wade, and for Stephen. For every life lost to pipeline accidents before and after Bellingham. So thank you.